Deconverted Man here. I like to be able to verify that something is real. And to do that, I need evidence that is not just in my own brain. I need something that can be dealt with by other people on some sort of tangible level. Whether God exists in actuality or just in the brain is something that I would think that could be confirmed one way or the other, but for the theist that asserts that God has no evidence for it, what are you supposed to do with that? So, God, whatever it might be, is untestable and unprovable because that's just its nature. That's the way it is. And so asking for any evidence of it, any test to run on it, is missing the point. The whole point is, there is none to offer. So what other phenomenon is like that in the world that we can actually know about? And the only phenomenon that fit that category are phenomenon that happen inside the brain. Now, of course, God has to occur in the brain because the brain is how we experience everything. So whether there's a God or not, it still would have to occur in the brain. Unless, of course, God could make it occur in your left pinky because it's God. It can do anything, right? But to put these two ideas on the level playing field and say just that they're of equal weight, to say that, well, there's just as much proof of this unfalsifiable claim as there is proof that it's just in the brain, is to me beyond absurd. Of course, it doesn't matter if it is beyond absurd to me. It could still be true. I don't want to appeal to my own personal incredulity here, but one is testable, the other is not. And we've done tests on brains, and we can make people experience what seems to be a spiritual experience. They will report subjectively that the thing that we're doing to their brain is producing X, Y, and Z results. So magnetic fields and chemicals that we can put in the brain and things like this. We can cause these events to occur. And yet, some will say, but maybe the God is causing the event to trigger all by itself. Randomly will you go about your day. Well, how in the world would you know that that's the case when there's no way to test that? It is merely an assertion. I don't think that it does any good to bring up that other people have also experienced this phenomenon that they call spiritual or God, because people experiencing something doesn't make that thing true, and a lot of people experiencing it doesn't make it true, or even just one person experiencing it doesn't make it true. So it doesn't matter how many people have experienced it. I also don't think that it matters whether or not the claim is something that has been throughout human history or not. Whether this has been something that has been repeatedly claimed throughout time or it's a completely brand new idea has no bearing on whether or not it's true. Of course, you'll never be proven wrong if all your arguments are unfalsifiable, but nor will you ever be proven right. And that's the part that I think makes all of theism fail, because it is based on faith. It's based completely on your faith that this thing is actually really real, rather than just something that your brain produced and is real in the sense of a dream or imagination or something like that. Now, it might feel more real, but that doesn't make it more real. Nature is a beautiful and wondrous thing already on its own, and I don't think that we need to add anything to it to make it more wondrous or more interesting. So why add a god or a soul or spirits or an afterlife or anything like that when there's no evidence? Well, there's evidence. The only evidence that there is, though, is somebody's experience, which is just a byproduct of the brain. we know that. We can make somebody feel this with mechanisms. So why would we think that it's anything more than just something that the brain does? There doesn't need to be anything more than a mundane explanation. To add a step is to, well, violate Occam's razor. Not that that really matters per se, but also it's just an unwarranted extrapolation. Well, it felt like I really had this thing happen to me. Well, that's nice, but other than that feeling, what else you got? And, well, all these other people had the same sort of feeling, and they've had it throughout history. Maybe that's just how brains work. And it seems that it is just how brains work. That's testable. That's scientific. That's something that we can do something with and move forward with. We could prevent people from having these experiences ever, perhaps, if we developed some sort of device. Or we could make it so that you could have them whenever you wanted. In either case, we don't need the gods to be real, even if they are. And if they are, then they're indistinguishable from not being real. So there's no reason to think that they're real, except for faith. You make a leap of faith and hope that they're real. Considering that every single time in the past that we have thought something was from the gods, it's turned out to be mundane. There's no reason for me to think that this time, this is the one time, that this experience that this person had, that's the genuine experience. All the other times we were wrong, but this time we got it right somehow. Now, that's just too big of a leap to make. And I don't even know if there is another side, so I'm not going to jump. Because I'd rather have facts than faith. Because I know that I'm right if I have the facts, or at least I can find out if I'm wrong. But I can find out one way or the other. But if I have faith, I just believe that I'm right. And hope that somebody somewhere at some point will prove me wrong. No, I just say I am right, and I'll just enjoy that until I see that I'm wrong, and maybe I'll never see that I'm wrong, especially if I put myself into such a position where there's no way to show me that I'm wrong, so that my faith is protected. But faith is empty and void. As long as I have facts and you have faith, I'll always be right, and you'll always be wrong, because faith is nothing. So, don't use it. Don't have it. Get the facts, and when you don't have the facts, I don't know. That was interesting. Yeah, people have weird experiences in their heads, and some people have to go to the mental hospital for them, and some people don't. Some experiences are common and others aren't. But so what? It's just the brain doing its thing. Unless it's testable, demonstrably so, unless other people can observe it and poke at it and prod it, now, there's no reason to think that it's anything more than a byproduct of your brain. Especially since we can make the brain sense and feel these things. It's a closed case for me, but if you're out there and you want to believe in a God, well, you'll find any and all justification to do so. And you'll believe that it has an equal footing as any other explanation, even when it doesn't. But we don't have empirical evidence, we don't have a repeatable test, and forget about having a logically coherent argument, it's not going to happen. So what should we do? We should remain skeptical. Sadly, those with faith will not.